Brother Anansi and the King's Dinner. One bright morning in the heart of the Jamaican forest, Brother Anansi, the clever spider, was lounging in his hammock when he overheard something interesting. King Lion had invited all the animals to a grand feast at his den, but Anansi was left off the guest list. Brother Anansi's eyes sparkled with mischief as he hatched a plan.
Them think they're smart, aye? But me always smarter.
That afternoon, Brother Anansi spun a fine web that stretched all the way from his tree to King Lion's den. He called down to Monkey, who was on his way to the feast.
Monkey, carry me greetings to King Lion. Tell him me will be late. Me have important business, but me coming.
With no suspicion, agreed and hurried along. As each animal passed, Anansi repeated his message. By the time they all reached Lion's den, word had spread that Brother Anansi was coming, though no one had seen him. King Lion, Tiger, and the other guests grew nervous.
This Anansi always up to something,
growled Tiger, his sharp teeth glinting. What could he be planning? Lion nodded, uneasy.
Maybe it better we wait to start the feast till him reach. Him always know something we don't.
As the animals waited, Brother Anansi sneaked up and began tugging at his web. The thin threads connected to the den made soft rustling sounds like someone approaching. Lion's ears twitched. The animals turned their heads, expecting Anansi at any moment. But when no one appeared, Lion became more suspicious. Tiger, said Lion, go see what's keeping Anansi. Maybe he's up to mischief. Tiger growled and leaped into the forest, but Anansi, being small and crafty, quickly hid. While Tiger searched in vain, Anansi scurried back to Lion's den. There, he quickly helped himself to the finest dishes of the feast, the juicy fruits, tender meats, and sweet desserts. When Tiger returned empty-handed, Lion's feast was almost gone. And when the animals saw that Anansi had somehow eaten the best of everything, they were furious. But how did he do it? Cried Monkey, scratching his head. Anansi, now full and satisfied, appeared at the edge of the forest and called out,
Well, me did tell him me was coming. And me always find a way to enjoy the best part of the feast.
Lion roared and Tiger snarled, but by then, Anansi had already disappeared into the trees, leaving them hungry and outwitted. And so it was, once again, that Brother Anansi proved not only his cunning, but his wisdom, showing everyone that the sharpest claws and the loudest roars can't match a sharp mind. Moral of the story: sometimes wit and wisdom are more powerful than strength and force. Brother Anansi and the Magic River. One day, Brother Anansi, always looking for a way to get ahead without doing much work, heard of a river deep in the Jamaican mountains that was said to grant great power to anyone who could drink from it. The only problem was that the river was guarded by Tiger, the fiercest of all the animals. Anansi's eyes gleamed as he thought,
If me can outsmart Tiger, the power will be mine. Ha ha ha.
So, with a plan in mind, Brother Anansi set off for the river. Along the way, he gathered several large, shiny calabashes, which he tied to his back with vines. When he reached the magic river, sure enough, Tiger was there, pacing back and forth. Anansi, roared Tiger when he saw him.
Where are you? This is my river, and no one can drink from it but me.
Anansi, never one to show fear, smiled wide and replied,
Ah, Tiger, my friend, me no come for the water. Me come for bathe. Me heard the water here does wonders for your fur. Look at me. Me have to keep my fur clean, you know.
Tiger, being a proud animal, liked the idea of keeping his fur in top shape. He sniffed suspiciously at Anansi, but couldn't see any danger in letting him bathe. Fine, Tiger grumbled.
But no drink the water. Anansi, I'm watching you.
Anansi nodded innocently and began to wade into the river. As he did, he dipped the calabashes under the water, one by one, filling them up and hiding them beneath the surface. Tiger kept his eyes on Anansi, but the trickster spider was clever. His small body made it easy to avoid detection. When Anansi was done, he said cheerfully,
Ahoy! I feel fresh now. Thank you, Tiger. Me leave you in peace.
Anansi slowly walked away from the river, the calabashes full of the magic water hidden under his vines. Tiger watched him go, still suspicious but unable to see anything wrong. He thought, Anansi is up to something, but me don't know what. As soon as Anansi was far enough away, he laughed to himself and scurried up a tree to enjoy his prize. He drank the water from one calabash, feeling a surge of strength and energy fill him. But just as he finished drinking, he heard a loud roar behind him. Tiger had figured it out!
Anansi, you tricked me?
Tiger shouted, charging towards the tree. Thinking quickly, Anansi dropped the remaining calabashes down onto the forest floor. As they smashed, the magic water spilled everywhere, soaking the ground and creating a slippery mess. Tiger, in his rush to catch Anansi, slipped and tumbled, sliding down the hill and into the river with a huge splash. Anansi burst into laughter from his perch in the tree.
Oh, Tiger, you always falling for my tricks, ha 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 ha.
Though Tiger was furious, he couldn't catch Anansi, and by the time he made it out of the river, the clever spider was long gone, feeling stronger than ever. Moral of the story: wit and quick thinking can get you out of even the tightest situations. Brother Anansi and the Singing Stones. One day, Brother Anansi heard a story about magical stones deep in the Jamaican mountains that could sing beautiful songs. It was said that whoever found these stones would be granted good fortune for life. As always, Anansi's mind buzzed with a plan to find the stones and claim the fortune for himself.
But me have to be careful. Tiger and lion might hear about the stones too.
Determined to outsmart anyone who tried to stop him, Anansi set off early in the morning, scurrying through the lush forest. As he climbed higher into the mountains, he soon heard a sweet melody echoing through the trees. He had found the singing stones. When Anansi reached the spot, he saw the magical stones glowing softly, resting beside a clear, sparkling pool of water. The stones sang in soft voices, their music floating in the cool mountain air. Anansi's eyes gleamed.
Ha ha ha, this is perfect.
But just as he reached out to take the stones, a familiar voice rumbled from behind him. Anansi, roared Tiger, his eyes blazing. What you doing here?
These stones belong to me.
Anansi turned and smiled his sly smile.
Ah, Tiger, my friend. Me come to share the music with everyone. But look here, the stones can only sing for the bravest animal. If you can prove your braveness, maybe the stones will sing for you.
Tiger growled.
How me prove my bravery, Anansi?
Anansi pointed to the sparkling pool.
Aye, the stones only sing when you jump into that pool. But you have to do it with your eyes closed. And if you're brave enough, the stones will sing your name.
Tiger, eager to show his strength, puffed out his chest.
I will show you bravery.
He snarled, closing his eyes and preparing to leap into the pool. Just as Tiger jumped, Anansi quickly reached into his bag and threw a large calabash in front of the stones. The calabash splashed loudly, tricking Tiger into thinking he had landed in the pool. Tiger, feeling proud, opened his eyes, but to his surprise, he was standing on dry land. He had missed the pool entirely, and the stones didn't sing his name. Anansi, holding back laughter, said,
Oh, Tiger. Aha! You almost had it. Maybe next time.
While Tiger was distracted, trying to figure out what had gone wrong, Anansi quickly grabbed the stones and scurried into the forest, their soft songs following him. Tiger roared in frustration, but by the time he realized what had happened, Anansi was long gone, disappearing into the shadows with the singing stones in his bag. Back in his tree, Anansi listened to the stones sing as he relaxed in his hammock, grinning from ear to ear. Once again, the clever spider had outwitted the strongest of animals. Moral of the story: quick thinking and wit can be more valuable than strength when facing life's challenges. Brother Anansi and the Crocodile's Secret. One day, while lounging lazily under a tree, Brother Anansi overheard an exciting conversation between two birds perched high in the branches. Have you heard? The great crocodile has a secret treasure hidden deep in the river, one bird chirped. Yes, but no one dares to approach Crocodile. He's too dangerous, the other bird replied. Anansi's ears perked up. Treasure? He muttered to himself. His mind immediately began racing with ideas.
If me can trick crocodile, the treasure will be mine. Ha ha
The
ha.
next morning, Anansi set off towards the riverbank where Crocodile was basking in the sun, half submerged in the water. Crocodile, with his large, intimidating frame, noticed the tiny spider approaching but said nothing.
Ah, my big friend crocodile.
Anansi called out with exaggerated enthusiasm.
Me have some news for you.
Crocodile raised an eyebrow.
What you want, Anansi?
Well, Anansi began slyly.
Me hear say lion and tiger is on their way to steal your treasure. And me come for help.
Crocodile's eyes narrowed suspiciously.
Help? What can a little spider like you do for help me?
Anansi grinned.
I may be small, but me clever. You leave the thinking to me.
Crocodile, although not fully trusting Anansi, was curious.
So what's your plan, Anansi?
Simple, Anansi said confidently.
Yeah, just go hide the treasure somewhere safe. Me will distract lion and tiger. They will never know where it is.
Crocodile, desperate to protect his treasure, thought about it and agreed.
All right, but if you try to trick me and Nancy, me go make you my next meal. You hear that?
Anansi gulped but nodded.
Go. No tricks, no tricks. Just leave it to me.
Crocodile swam off to hide his treasure while Anansi prepared the next part of his plan. He scurried up a tree and called out loudly, "Oh no, Crocodile's treasure is gone. Someone's already stolen it." Lion and Tiger, who had been lurking nearby, heard Anansi's cries and rushed to the riverbank. "What did you say, Anansi? Crocodile's treasure is gone?" Lion growled. Anansi nodded dramatically.
Me just see someone running away with it towards the mountains. You better hurry if you want to catch him.
Lion and Tiger exchanged glances and, without thinking, sprinted off in the direction Anansi had pointed. Meanwhile, Crocodile returned from hiding his treasure. "Is it done?" he asked. "Yes, my friend," Anansi said, grinning wider than ever.
Lion and tiger is gone, so now the treasure is safe.
Satisfied, Crocodile thanked Anansi and swam back to his den. Little did he know that Anansi had secretly followed him earlier and discovered the hiding spot. Later that night, while Crocodile slept, Anansi snuck back to the river and quietly retrieved the treasure for himself. As he sat under the moonlight light, admiring his prize, Anansi chuckled to himself.
Ahaha! Once again, me show them that brains always beat brawn.
Moral of the story: wit and clever thinking can outsmart even the strongest of foes. Brother Anansi and the Clever Parrot. One sunny afternoon, Brother Anansi was wandering through the forest looking for some way to entertain himself. As he scuttled along, he heard a strange sound overhead, a series of cheerful whistles and laughter echoing through the treetops. Curious, Anansi looked up to see a brightly colored parrot perched high on a branch, chattering and laughing as if he knew something no one else did. Intrigued, Anansi called out, "Oi, parrot! What's so funny up there?" Parrot, always eager to share a good story, chirped back.
Brother Anansi, you wouldn't believe what me saw yesterday. The animals at the waterfall, they found a magical fruit that makes them feel happy and strong. But it's hidden, and only me know where it there.
Anansi's eyes sparkled with interest. "A magical fruit that gives strength and happiness? That must be mine." "Ah, Parrot, my good friend," Anansi said sweetly. "Why don't you take me to this magical fruit so I can see it with my own eyes?" Parrot, who was wise to Anansi's tricks, thought for a moment.
Oh, Anansi, me would love to show you, but the way is tricky. If you can keep up, we might lead you there.
Anansi, ever determined, nodded eagerly.
All right, lead the way, Parrot.
Parrot took off, flying from branch to branch, occasionally looking back to make sure Anansi was still following. Anansi scrambled through the undergrowth, swinging from vines and skittering over rocks, trying to keep up with Parrot's quick movements. After a while, Parrot stopped by a massive tree with thick roots and said, "Ah, Brother Anansi, the magical fruit is hidden right under here." Anansi inspected the base of the tree, but found nothing.
Me not seen the fruit, Parrot. Where is it?
Parrot tilted his head, feigning innocence.
Oh, me mistake. It must be the next tree over. Let's go, Brother Anansi.
And so the chase continued, with Parrot leading Anansi through the forest, tree after tree. As evening approached, Anansi's legs grew tired and he was panting from all the running and climbing. Finally, Parrot perched on a high branch and said,
Aha! Me remember now. The magical fruit isn't here at all. Me was just stretching my wings and giving you some exercise, Brother Anansi.
Anansi was furious but too exhausted to argue. He realized that Parrot had tricked him and was now laughing heartily.
Aha! You got me, parrot.
Nancy said, catching his breath. But remember, every trickster has his day. Parrot simply laughed.
Me know, Brother Anansi, but today was mine.
With that, Parrot flew off, still chuckling, leaving Brother Anansi to make his slow, tired way back home. Moral of the story, sometimes even the cleverest of tricksters can be outsmarted. Brother Anansi and the Pot of Wisdom. Once upon a time, Brother Anansi, always hungry for knowledge, decided that he wanted all the wisdom in the world for himself. He went to the great old baobab tree, where stories and secrets flowed like rivers, and asked for a pot to gather every ounce of wisdom he could find. The tree, wise and knowing, handed him a clay pot and said, "Fill this with wisdom, but remember, true wisdom is shared, not hoarded." But Brother Anansi, being the trickster he was, thought,
Aha! If me keep all of this wisdom, me will be smarter than anyone.
so day after day he went through the forest, asking animals and plants for their bits of wisdom. He learned how to stay hidden from predators, how to weave the strongest webs, and even how to gather the sweetest fruits before anyone else. Soon the pot was nearly full, and Brother Anansi, grinning wide, decided it was time to hide it where only he could reach. He tied the pot to his belly and began climbing a tall tree, struggling as he clutched it close. Now Little Bird, always curious, watched Anansi's struggle from a nearby branch and called out, "Brother Anansi, why don't you tie the pot to your back? It will be easier to climb." Anansi paused. He hadn't thought of that. He glared at the bird and muttered,
Aye. Well, look at that. All this wisdom. I may never think of it.
so he tied the pot to his back and started climbing again. But as he did, he began to wonder. If he hadn't thought of something so simple, maybe he didn't truly have all the wisdom after all. And the pot tied to his back suddenly felt heavier, like it was bursting with something he couldn't contain. At last, Anansi climbed to the top of the tree and placed the pot on a branch. But as soon as he did, the pot tipped over, spilling its wisdom into the wind. The knowledge scattered, floating to every corner of the forest, filling the animals, the trees, and even the smallest insects with wisdom. Anansi sighed, but he couldn't help laughing. Well, it looked like wisdom can't be held by one spider alone. From that day on, wisdom flowed freely through the forest, shared by all who needed it. And Brother Anansi, though a bit less powerful than he'd hoped, had learned that the best wisdom often comes from others. Moral of the story: true wisdom is not in holding all knowledge for oneself, but in sharing it with others. Brother Anansi and the Greedy Frog. Once upon a time in the heart of the Jamaican forest, Brother Anansi, the clever trickster, was busy weaving a fine web near the river when he overheard Frog boasting about his cunning ways. "No one can outsmart me," Frog croaked proudly. "I always get the biggest share of food at every feast." Brother Anansi, always up for a challenge, chuckled to himself. "Me must teach dis greedy frog a lesson," he thought. The next day, Brother Anansi sent out invitations to a grand feast at his web. Every animal was invited, including Frog, who arrived first, licking his lips with anticipation. "Welcome, welcome, Frog," said Anansi with a big grin. "Since you were so early, I'll let you help with the preparations. Just gather some firewood while I fetch the food." Frog was surprised but agreed, hopping off to gather sticks. Anansi, meanwhile, quickly set up a table with 2 empty bowls and a few herbs. When Frog returned, he looked around eagerly. "Where's the food, Anansi?" Frog asked, frowning at the empty bowls. "Oh, it's coming," Anansi assured him. "But first, we must perform a little ritual to bring out the flavor of the meal." Curious, Frog nodded. "First, we must wash our hands in the river," Anansi instructed, "and say, 'Wash off de greed, wash off de hunger.' It's a special chant. You do that while I set up the fire." Frog obediently hopped down to the river, chanting, "Wash off thy greed, wash off thy hunger." Each time he finished, Anansi called out, "Not yet! Do it again, Frog! The food needs time to cook." Frog repeated the chant over and over, his stomach rumbling. When he finally returned to the table, the food bowls were empty. "What happened to thy food, Anansi?" Frog demanded. Anansi chuckled, patting his own full belly. "Well, Frog, me just ate it all up while you were busy washing off your greed." Frog, realizing he'd been tricked, sighed but couldn't help laughing. "Anansi, you got my good. Next time, I will watch my tongue." From then on, Frog never bragged about his cunning, and he shared his food humbly at every feast, for he learned that greed can leave even the biggest appetite empty. Moral of the story: sometimes the best meal is found in sharing, and pride often leaves one hungry.